Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So I finally am sitting down to make a video about the Switch 2. Now that we know the release date, the price, what the gimmicks are like, what the launch games are going to be like, I finally wanted to talk about it. I'm excited to kind of share my thoughts with you and things that I'm a little disappointed about, but also things that I'm really excited about with the Switch 2. So first of all, let's start with what I wanted out of the Switch 2. What was I expecting? What was I hoping for? And to me, the Switch 2, I kind of already always knew it was going to sort of just be a upgraded Switch, a Switch 1.5 in a way, but in my opinion, this really is the Switch 2.0, and it's exactly what I wanted. And what I mean by this is, remember the times when we used to feel the generational leaps in going from one generation to the next? So, say the upgrade from playing games on your PS3 to the PS4 or the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One. While that leap, that technological leap, wasn't, say, as mind blowing as, say, going from the N64 to the GameCube or something, or the PS1 to the PS2, they were meaningful upgrades. Seeing that extra bit of sheen or performance, just visual glamour in these generational leaps, I'm feeling that with the Switch to the Switch 2, because man, when they showed that Mario Kart gameplay, I felt like a kid again, just seeing how Bowser's shell was reflecting in the sunlight with all kinds of different reflections and light and shadows, and the courses looking absolutely stunning. It looked awesome. This is what Nintendo fans, whether you're a hardcore Nintendo fanboy or just like a casual Nintendo fan, this is what we've been waiting for a long time, for Nintendo to finally get caught up with the current generation of visuals in their games. They've always sort of been a step behind, but I really think the Switch 2 puts them on par with a lot of games that are coming out on, say, the PS5, the Series X, and almost in some ways PC, more like AA. Of course, people will always argue the benchmark games on PC, of course, they're going to look better than Switch 2 games, but I think these Switch 2 games, from what they have shown, especially with Mario Kart World as an example, man, it's looking really good for the future of Switch 2, and this is just the launch. The games are only going to continue to look better and better. I want you to just imagine for a moment a Mario Kart, look at how Mario Kart looks. Now imagine a 3D Mario platformer. Maybe it's like an open world 3D Mario platformer with those kind of graphics. I mean, that is kind of what we're moving towards, and I'm all here for it. So I got exactly what I was hoping the Switch 2 would be. Just a really good, clean looking, pretty much up to par with what you would expect in 2025 for Nintendo games to look like. What happened is, the graphics are getting harder and harder to make more impressive on the other platforms, and it kind of just caught up, right? Like Nintendo had time to finally catch up and meet that benchmark that they have been trying to meet, typically always like a generation behind the other platforms. So congratulations, Nintendo, you finally did it. You've caught up. Your games look flat out amazing and comparable to a lot of the other platforms, in my opinion. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room here. So the price and how they're structuring this. So it's coming out June 5th, so really soon, just over 2 months from now. I'm still very nervous about trying to secure a pre-order for this thing. I don't think it's going to be as easy as Nintendo wants you to believe it's going to be. I'm fearful of the scalpers and the bots and everything, but I'm going to do my best to try and get one. My original price prediction for this thing was going to be either 400 or 450. So they actually went with the 450 for just the base console, but let's just be completely honest here. This console is not $450. This is a $500 or $530 console. And what do I mean by this? Mario Kart World is pretty much the only launch game people are going to care about. Let's be real here. If you're buying a Switch 2, it's probably going to be almost a 1-to-1 adoption rate unless you're buying it specifically to play some random third-party game that they're launching with. It is going to be a almost 1-to-1 adoption rate. So that means you're either buying the bundle with the digital copy of Mario Kart World, which is now $500, or if you're buying the physical, which apparently now I think the game is, all games, their digital games are going to be $80 now, by the way. Man, I picked a really good time to start getting very selective about what modern games I'm picking up these days, because man, going from 60 to 70 was one thing, but now we're going from 70 to 80. Ouch. Yeah, when other console manufacturers start catching on to $80 games from Nintendo Boy, and then they start tacking on their collector's editions, it's going to be getting really expensive to buy new games. And I'm not sure. I'm assuming the physical will also be $80. So yeah, you're talking about a $500 or $530 console, because if you're not buying Mario Kart World, I mean, what are you doing, right? I don't know. I feel like most people are going to be picking that game up with it. So the price was kind of like right around where I expected. No big shocker there. I actually also called, but it's not hard to predict this. I did call that they were going to do two versions of the console, one with Mario Kart World digitally. I didn't think you would get a physical, and that's exactly what they did. They gave you a digital version. for an extra $50. So pretty predictable stuff. The only thing that I was thinking they were going to do, but they didn't, was introduce some kind of like um, accessory, like a mouse pad or something to use the mouse controls with. But we'll get to the mouse controls in a moment. Let's talk about um, the games that they showed besides Mario Kart. So this is where I was a little bit disappointed. I was really thinking that we were going to get at least one more game, substantial game besides Mario Kart World. Now, granted, hey, we can play Mario Kart World for a month straight, no problem. Probably no need for other games. I think, like me, I'll be very busy with that game for the month for sure until Donkey Kong comes out. We'll get to that later. But I was expecting a little something more from them, and the only other games that they showed, um, besides Mario Kart World, which one more thing I want to touch on with Mario Kart World, the open world mechanic where you can like drive around, go wherever, like in this sort of open world style mode. Awesome. What do they call it? They call it I forget what they actually call that mode, but they have Knockout Tour as well, something else that I thought was going to be coming, similar to Chocobo GP, the Chocobo racing game, where you're going to have like 30 players that gradually get knocked down in elimination style races. Totally what that game needed with that many players, and it's a perfect pairing, a perfect mode for that. Yeah. Other than that, they showed, what was the name of it? It was like that Switch 2 Welcome Tour. It's this like something I thought that was going to be free with the console. It looked like a sort of fun interactive tutorial for your Switch 2, but apparently it's a paid game. Ooh, man, that game, I don't know how much they're going to be charging for it. It looks very Nintendo. It looks like a very Nintendo kind of thing to do with a new console, but I don't know how, like, what kind of content you're going to get in that game for a paid game. It looks like it should have been included in with every console for free, right? So I probably wouldn't expect more than $20 for that game. Um, and then they also showed this other Drag to Drive or something. This really odd. I mean, it didn't look like a Nintendo game at all. It didn't really look. It looked like a game in like pre-alpha. From what they showed, the graphics were not good. Didn't have that colorful Nintendo flair to it. It was just this really strange, like wheelchair style mouse driven game. It was, yeah, I don't know. It was, if it's a day one launch game and everybody's playing it online, I'm sure a lot of people will pick it up and play. But man, if that game comes out like, if that would have came out a few months after the launch, I don't think too many people would be paying attention to it. It just didn't look like your typical Nintendo happy-go-lucky, like colorful, like Arms, right? Arms, of course, a higher budget, I'm sure, just had that Nintendo look to it. This drag drive game, yeah, I wasn't feeling it. So I guess the other big thing that they revealed that a lot of people were anticipating were Switch 2 upgrades. They're calling them Nintendo Switch 2 Edition games. That's a very big mouthful, and they're actually putting that banner like underneath the games on their title cards. Right now, it's only for a select few games, but it is something that I was really hoping for, and it's one of the reasons I started putting off buying a lot of Switch games because I was kind of waiting for this announcement. How would older Switch games perform on the Switch 2? And I got my answer. It's going to perform in a paid upgrade. I'm not sure how much they are. I'm not sure if they've revealed it yet, but you're going to have to pay for an upgrade either for a new physical version or you pay for like a digital upgrade of your existing versions. And you'll be able to play games like Zelda Breath of the Wild in 60 frames, presumably. They just said there's going to be frame rate and resolution upgrades, but presumably you're going to be able to play it probably in handheld mode at either probably 60 frames per second in 1080p or on your TV in maybe like an upscaled 4K. They are advertising that the Switch 2 in handheld mode is going to do 120 frames a second, which is, I think a lot of us were not expecting that. That is really impressive. This is actually going to be my first time ever seeing 120 frames in person playing on the handheld. And it actually makes me really excited because more reasons for me to play in handheld mode. I typically only play my Switch on my TV when it's docked, when I'm like streaming and stuff. But man, if I get to play my games at 120 frames a second in handheld, like off stream, kind of in my own time, that's really tempting. And I'm kind of all for these Switch 2 editions. I think going forward, as they release games on the Switch, they're going to get two different versions. So you'll get like the normal Switch version and then the Switch 2 exclusive version. Of course, Switch 2 owners are going to pick up the Switch 2 version, and then it's kind of going to feel like you're playing a sort of like Switch 1.5 game with the performance upgrades. I'm just so happy. One of the biggest things for me was to finally make Switch games run in better frame rate. So many Switch games struggle to even hit 30 frames a second, whether that's handheld or on the TV. But I know when I'm playing docked, a lot of games really struggle with their frame rate, and I'm just so excited that I'll finally be able to play Switch games and Switch 2 games in 60 frames a second, 4K resolution. Now, I'm sure there's some people out there that are going to be like, well, it's not like real 4K. I'm not a super tech savvy person with that stuff. I don't care what they're doing. As long as my games look more stunning, more phenomenal on my TV for Nintendo games that are finally running in a high frame rate and a nice looking resolution, that's all I need, and I'll be pretty happy. There is one more game that really took me by surprise, though, that unfortunately the Nintendo stream I was watching it on YouTube, they started getting like hiccups and lagging and like, I don't know, something really got messed up with their stream around this time. But all of a sudden they showed this game where there were kids running around on an island. And I'm like, oh, that's Lost in Blue. Right? I'm just joking. I didn't expect Lost in Blue to ever come back. But then suddenly when the video feed finally came back, I found out that it actually kind of was Lost in Blue. It was Survival Kids from Konami. Wow, whoever expected Survival Kids to come back? However, they kind of revived it in this weird, seemingly you have to play online with 4 players online and kind of like work together in a co-op game, but that was a shocker. I was not expecting Survival Kids, and that's apparently going to be a launch game on the Switch too, which is really cool because I'm sure people, when they're not playing Mario Kart, they might want to play something else. Survival Kids will probably be one of the few exclusives on there. I'm not sure if it's coming to other platforms, but I'm sure a lot of people will be picking it up on the Switch too for some Survival Kids. Was not expecting that. It's an old dormant series that, man, the last time I played it was like Game Boy Color. So it's been a while. So let's talk about the other gimmicks on the Switch 2. The camera, most notably. I think this is the big shocker that had not leaked. Obviously, the mouse controls had leaked to some degree, but I don't think anybody really expected this camera thing to be coming. So that mysterious C button on the controller is actually a pay-to-use button. That's a button. What I mean by this is you press it and it will allow you to connect with friends and use video chat and voice chat and essentially, like, remember Uno on the Xbox 360? Well, it's going to be like that with all of your Nintendo games with all of your friends, except you're going to be able to watch each other play games. Like, if your one friend is playing Zelda and your one friend's playing Mario Kart, you'll be able to watch them. The frame rate looked really rough, like watching your friends play games in 5 frames a second. Probably not the most enticing thing. It's not really a feature that I think I'll ever be taking advantage of. Apparently, also in like Mario Party, you're going to be able to do WarioWare style like webcams kind of mini games. I mean, whatever. It's a cool feature for distant family, distant friends, to kind of like hook up and play together. It's something that I think a lot of people will take advantage of. It's not personally for me, but I do think it's really funny that in order to actually press that button on your controller and get a use out of it, you have to pay for Nintendo's online membership. So yeah, they're really pushing that membership. I think it's like kind of a genius marketing tool because when you think about it, everybody when they get their Switch 2, they're going to look at their controller and be like, what is the C button? They're going to press it and it's probably going to be like a pop-up ad like, join Nintendo online membership to get access to video chat. So it's actually pretty genius on their part, continuing to grow their membership. But I think Nintendo keeps their online pricing very competitive, very low, very enticing. So, I can't be too hard on Nintendo with their pricing for their online membership. It's a heck of a lot more affordable than the other alternatives. And congratulations to Nintendo for finally getting with the times when it comes to kind of like incorporating more online multiplayer, ease of chatting, ease of connecting with friends. The friend codes of the past, boy, that stuff was kind of a pain. The other gimmick that we already kind of knew about due to spoilers, at least most of us did, if you were keeping up with Switch 2 rumors, the mouse controls. I was really excited to see what they were going to do with the mouse controls, and ultimately I was a bit disappointed by this because I was expecting them to really have a focus on mouse control games. They did briefly show Metroid using mouse controls, and I was, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But other than that, drag X drive game and like very simple mini games that they showed off, they really didn't show much of the mouse. So I guess it's kind of like an afterthought feature for them where they're like, okay, if we want to use this in the future, it will be there. But they didn't really make too big of a deal about it. So I think it's going to be one of those things where we got to really try it ourselves to see how comfortable it is. Because let's be honest here, those controllers may not be the best or the easiest or the most comfortable to use for long gaming sessions with something like Metroid. But I was just kind of hoping for something more than just, little minigame demonstrations with the mouse controller. They showed a ton of third-party games, and to be honest, I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing with third-party yet with the Switch 2 if I play it, and I really love the look of the games on the handheld and the interface. Maybe I'll make Switch 2 my multi-platform console of choice. Maybe I'll be done buying multi-platforms on PS5 or occasionally on Xbox if it's like a Game Pass thing or something, and I'll just buy everything on the Switch too if I really get into the ecosystem of the console in terms of how everything plays and looks. I could definitely see it, but I think I will be passing on a lot of the multiplats on there um, for now until I see how it looks. Also, another big reveal for a lot of people. I'm still unsure if I'm going to play this. It probably depends on if I'm still in uh, my honeymoon phase with the Switch 2 when it comes out, because I'm kind of like distancing myself from this genre. It's getting a little tiring these days. But the new From Software game, The Duskbloods, a little bit of a shocker as an exclusive. That was kind of a cool little reveal at the end there. A lot of PC players and other console players are probably very disappointed in that if they didn't plan on buying a Switch 2. I don't blame you, right? Because now you got to try and track one of these things down, and they're not exactly cheap. It looked good, but really, unless I'm really desperate to play this game when it comes out, or the word on the street is just so good you can't pass it up, I think I'm gonna hold off on the Duskbloods personally. When it comes to Nintendo, for me, like I'm just really excited for that first party stuff. And speaking of first party stuff, I was quite disappointed overall with like the games that were shown besides Mario Kart until the end. They saved some super duper surprise games for the end. And I know I'm going to catch flack for this one, but it's one of my most wanted GameCube games still. I still have not bought it, still have not played it. Kirby Air Ride, I kind of regret it now because I'm sure at this point it's going to be a little harder to get that game for a good price. I'm sure there's a lot of people snatching it up. But the reveal of Kirby Air Ride 2, like what? Who would have ever saw that coming? Especially when we're getting Mario Kart. Like I really did not expect them to show any other first-party racing games. I was kind of holding out for Wave Race, but I was not expecting any racing games alongside Mario Kart World. So to see Kirby Air Ride, or as they're calling it, Kirby Air Riders, that was a shocker. That was a really fun surprise. At first, I'm like, I saw Kirby. I knew it was Kirby. I'm like, okay, it's Kirby, but I'm like, man, it seems so soon after Forgotten Land. And then suddenly, boom, there it is. Kirby Air Ride is back. That was awesome. Definitely will be playing that. And then the real shocker, I seriously thought they were revealing the 3D Mario platformer at the end, but wow, it was a new Donkey Kong 3D platformer, and I thought it looked fantastic. You got to give it to Nintendo. They always think of these simple, little, clever mechanics that just add a little extra something to the games to make them stand out. And like just the fact that as Donkey Kong, you can smash through the terrain seemingly anywhere, like this sort of like terraforming, breaking of the walls and floors and everything. Such a cool idea. I thought it looked great. I'm still kind of warming up to this new look of Donkey Kong, but I think by the time I start playing this game, I'm gonna be all about it, because man, we need more first party Nintendo 3D platformers that are not Mario games. So this was fantastic to see. It really makes me want to go back and play some Donkey Kong 64 and go crazy collecting a bunch of collectibles in that game again. But that was one of the best like final reveals that we could have hoped for, because I love my 3D platformers, and having that as like the show closer, it made me feel good. It made me, hey, a lot of our 3D platformers do these days have to come from Nintendo, but it gives me hope that 3D platformers as a whole will continue to grow and thrive beyond just like what Nintendo puts out, right? You look at Astrobot, how successful that game was. I'm really hoping that a lot of these other studios will be like, you know what, let's take a shot at making a new cutesy mascot 3D platformer. So there you go, guys. Those are just my general impressions on the Switch 2. I definitely will be trying to track one of these down. I'm going to do my best to try and get a pre-order in, and I will be playing and streaming it on day one. I hope to see you online for some Mario Kart. Hopefully it's really easy to set up some online lobbies and we can play some games together or something, but I'm hyped for it. Oh, and Donkey Kong, by the way, only a month after the release of the launch, which is awesome. Usually the most memorable games for me for new console launches are the ones that come like in that wait period. You get your initial games, and then there's that cooldown period of a month or two, and then that next wave of games hit. Usually it's like 1 or 2 games. Those typically tend to be the most memorable and fun games for me. There's just something about sort of like still being fresh off of the excitement of having a new console, and then like having that new game release outside of launch day, you know what I mean? So yeah. Anyway, just wanted to share my excitement with you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.